Okay, thanks everyone for joining. We're going to go ahead and get started. So welcome. This is the second session that we've been doing in this space where I'm going to actually drive it myself. So be patient with me. But specifically, this one's for an enterprise function called architecture, which I was there when it was first created. I was there when my friends who were engineers were the top engineers were brought over to a function and created, saying we're going to be this central function to provide scale and provide reuse and provide direction across the enterprise. And I've seen, as I mentioned in the post, I've seen the good, the bad, the ugly. And I've seen it both from inside of a Fortune 50 company where I was a managing director at Citigroup and then EVP CIO at MetLife, as well as outside as I'm the CEO founder for Unqork. And so I want to talk a little bit about Uncork from an enterprise architecture point of view. And the spoiler alert is very simple. We could sit in front of 7 architects, all with their arms crossed, and we will get through that meeting, and there won't be a single issue found or anything that we can't do. And what I mean by that is anything we can't do from a complexity point of view, from a functionality point of view, and from a usability point of view to deliver value to the enterprise. And I'm going to redefine enterprise architecture's purpose as basically adding value to your enterprise, bringing scale, bringing that reuse. So a little bit about Uncork, and I'm going to do more slides than I normally do, but then I'm going to jump straight into a demo. But specifically, Uncork is the first ever no-code platform. So as a CIO in Fortune 50 companies, I lived through the failed promises of every single software vendor and every attempt internal to build something which enabled the business to get value faster from software. Everything from the idea of low-code solutions, code generator solutions. I've been coding since punch card machines and IBM to assembler, Fortran. Everywhere along the way, it's been building libraries and modules to make us engineers more productive, more effective, and make those templates and modules more reusable across teams and groups. And I would challenge, and I'm so excited to see there was hundreds of people from different companies registered for this across top Fortune 250 companies. And I would challenge each of you to say, did you actually achieve scale within the enterprise yet? And what you're going to see is Uncork is the answer to that. So Uncork, when we say it's a no-code platform, what does it mean? It's 3 things. It's 1, it's unified. And I'll show you what that means in a second from an architecture point of view. It's visual, which means drag and drop. Anyone could do it. Anyone could use it. I'm going to be the user today. So I'm going to drive everything for myself today. And most importantly, it's enterprise grade. So different than a software company that says, let's start with a little application and you could use it for simple applications. And then they sell it to and try to enlist every developer to create their own instance in their website. Or it's different from that. We started with the Fortune 50 companies, the most complex, and we started with the most complex use cases, and we built it to be enterprise grade. So a very different direction of premium, freemium software versus the enterprise grade that you need to basically build. So specifically unified, what does it mean? It means that it replaces the entire enterprise technology stack that you know today. So little introduction on me. So again, as I started as what I would call a hacker in software, and I continue to love the idea that I could create something from nothing using technology, and that's Uncork, but before that it was coding. You basically think through the roles of a technology leader. So as a CIO within Fortune 50 companies, you sit with a business and the business says, I need to build this. I need to build an onboarding solution, a trading platform, a derivative system. I need to build a small business loan application, something we've read a lot about in recent news. And it's agnostic of industry. It's agnostic of functionality. But the uniform picture that comes back is an enterprise architecture stack that looks like this. And as a CIO, as a leader of 10,000 developers in 47 countries in technology and in my past life, this is the picture we all presented back to the business. It's, oh, great, we need to capture data. We need a presentation tier. We need to transform the data. We need to validate the data, integrate it to web services, internal and back to our core systems. And then we need a workflow tool. We need the business to basically jump in and be able to hand off between groups and track where it is. We need to store our rules centrally. so that we don't have to redefine them 10 times. Of course, all the data is stored in a database and encrypted in transit and storage, and then it's analyzed in insights, and you generate PDFs, and then you ingest PDFs, and you sign PDFs, and then you communicate to your clients back and forth. So what I just described actually could mean everything from content creation in a media telecom, walking into a hospital to basically register as a patient, all the way through opening a bank account, to changing your address in the bank account, to executing a trade, to executing a transaction, to buying life insurance. It's all the same. And what I'm going to tell you is unified in Unqork means we replace every single thing here in one step. So we are transforming the way the enterprise thinks of the boxes. Don't think of a box. Think of a solution. Think of what the business needs and start from there. It's a very different view of the world. So specifically, when you think about what we do, is we need to be able to satisfy everything from the building, the integration, and the management of the application in a secure, compliant way. Everything from the user experience side and the CX side to the look and feel, to the fonts, to the colors, all the way through the API side, the integrations, recognizing that we're going to be integrating with COBOL and assembler systems, vSAM files, and we're going to be doing that in ways which is transforming data and feeding your enterprise warehouse and your enterprise mart so you could transform the data and look at the data. And so all of this is what I'm going to quickly walk slides through and talk to you more details as to how we do this from a technical side. So what does no code mean when we say no code? It basically means, immediate time to market. So one of the things I'm proudest most about in the past 2 weeks was Washington, D.C. mayor, the commissioners of New York City, all talking about how Unqork is their response to COVID. It's a crisis time we're in. We were able to, in Unqork, stand up the equivalent of a rideshare company, not rideshare app, the entire company, from the registration of the drivers to the consumer registration of their account, to the eligibility and suitability of the consumer, through the idea of requesting a ride, through the idea of delivering a ride. And we've delivered over 2 million meals through this rideshare application, and supplies and medicine and other things needed for people. We did it in 3 days without writing a single line of code. So I'm going to do debunk myths. First myth: if we were sitting with an architect in a bank, any company, let's take a bank, the first thing they would tell the business is, this is great for small applications. Let's replace SharePoint, let's replace any of our survey tools. We built the equivalent of rideshare company in 3 days. We built derivative systems, trading systems, four-way trade reconciliation systems. I have yet to see any complexity of any project that we can't do in Unqork without ever writing code. And when we say no code, what it means is quick time to market, drag and drop, reduce the burden on technology. The user might be an engineer, it might be the business. And it's done in a way which is 100% scalable for every enterprise with a very low cost of ownership. Some technical slides we're just going to go through. So think of cloud. Cloud is great. Cloud said, hey, infrastructure guys, stop worrying about infrastructure. It's not a competitive advantage for you. It's not critical. And it's critical for your business, but it's not critical for your competitive advantage in your market, because we've raised the bar and everyone should be using it because that's how we do it at scale. It's really the first time technology showed value at scale from what I've seen as a CIO. And when you think about the cloud providers, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, the big three, we basically are the layer on top of cloud for application. Actually, cloud is infrastructure at its basis. Platform as a service features, that's great. The reality is the gaps and all the cyber breaches and all the issues you're reading about are on the app layer. All the complexity and all the reasons why things fail is the app layer. 93% of projects fail. It's not methodology, it's the app layer. It's actually getting there. So Unqork is the first solution that's just sitting on top of the cloud agnostic, containerized, and we've done it in a way which abstracts the entire experience, the front end, and the frameworks. Which means we've been migrating customers from Angular to React or to Vue or to any other API without the customer ever knowing a change occurred for the first time ever. And so we've done it in a very unique way from that perspective, as you'll see here, but we let basically the customer choose the cloud provider, Amazon, Google, and Microsoft. Many customers allow us to choose, which is what we are excited to be in that position. It is a software as a service solution. While most solutions, software as a service, are multi-tenant, we believe multi-tenant is good for a software vendor, but not good for the customer. So we are not. We are a single tenant cloud agnostic solution. and I'll talk more about what that means. So from a build perspective, if you're using Unqork, there's two modes. There's a designer mode, as you're going to see we use, and there's a rendering mode. And for the designer mode, we could do everything from building a workflow, which is a brand new way to replace the entire concept of a BPMN solution. It's intuitive, it's easy, it's a unique concept, but it's designed in a way to say, instead of BPMN solutions just being about handoff between people, it's integration, it's automation, it's decisioning in the BPMN solution built in automatically. We created and patented a new way to write a business rule called a micro decision, which divides the rule into discrete blocks that make it easy to maintain and use going forward. And we basically created the idea of data modeling to be built into the process instead of being an external tool. It's something which is happening natively for you behind the scenes. So yes, we could build a very simple, who are you, what's your name, what's your address? We could also make a data model to say, who are you, how many different homes do you live in? For each home, where is the actual phone numbers associated with it? What's the actual income with each home? And what's your mortgages with each home? And with each mortgage, what's your payment structure? All within 2 seconds in Unqork. So very simple data tracking. We built in the concept of data transformation into Unqork. Server side, client side, I need to take data out, I need to get data in, it's in a different format. I need to get it from Unqork's JSON structure into a VSAM file. Great, we've done it. And we built integration to be nothing but data mapping. If you want to integrate to something, it should be as simple as, what do you call it? What do I call it? Let's go. Stop thinking about everything else, which means we replaced a lot of the big architectures out there and tools out there for integration that you might know. And if they exist and they work well in your company, great, let's use it. Anything that already exists and work well, celebrate it. We'll celebrate it with you. Let's get it integrated into Unqork and make it work. You don't need to use Unqork entirely out of the box as every feature. We hope you eventually come there. But if things are working great, I mean, we should be celebrating success in technology for sure. It's not easy to find it in many cases. I'm hoping we see much more of it in the future. And of course, Unqork is that answer. A few more things about Unqork. So when we say no code, it's not that it's just, doesn't generate code, because we don't believe you should be generating code that has to be supported and maintained in its own containers and environments within different aspects. It actually doesn't allow you to inject even a single script. And what that allows us to achieve is, for the first time ever, scale across industries. A hospital system says, I need a new feature in Unqork to be able to validate a customer's medical record. Suddenly, I could drag that feature into my life insurance policy if I'm an insurer. Everyone's using the same code base. Everyone's using the same platform at a scale that hasn't been achieved before. And we basically were able to recreate Excel-like formulas. So if anyone knows how to use Excel, you could basically use Unqork. It's simple as that. No more complexity than equals A times B, or equals standard deviation, or future value. As simple as that. Sum, min, max, counts, etc. We also enabled it so you could build templates that we provide you out of the box, but you as architects could actually build your own templates and drive forward from there. I'm going to jump a little faster because I want to get to the actual demo. But it is, from a rendering point of view, we could render on any device, from mobile to tablet to desktop to responsive, seamlessly hand off. So it is omnichannel out of the box, meaning I start it on my phone, I pick it up on my computer, drop it off on my tablet, and I finish it in the call center in your operations desk. We don't care about user persona. It could be direct to consumer, it could be the call center, it could be operations, it could be a system to system integration. And you could do everything on the glass, from the validations to the reflexive nature of the questions. You could also choose to run it server side in our API management. And we have the ability to ingest data, whether it's even in paper form or a digital form. And we're able to integrate data in multiple ways, through real-time APIs, through batch feeds, which is a typical thing you might see in a company that has legacy technology. And we could real-time stream data out of Unqork into your enterprise warehouses as well. We are SOC 2 Type 2 Privacy Shield GDPR compliant, FedRAMP certifications near completion, which is the toughest of all. We encourage our customers to pen test, which means every customer that does a pen test is actually testing on the same environment as every other customer, so they benefit each other. It's actually, instead of a pen test that might be done on a critical application in a bank once or twice a year, we're getting our application pen tested once or twice a month, and it's increasing as our customer base has increased. From a compliance point of view, HIPAA compliance, cloud hosted, we provide it as a service. We hired an information security officer before we hired an engineer. Data lineage, we're able to actually track back every single field, where it's referenced, where it's been changed. We built our own role-based access control from the scratch, not an external tool. I was there when the OCC entered all of our lives in banking in 2007, 2008, and we built a role-based access control able to handle what would have been Citigroup's 400,000 employees and every privilege and every access you need to do from scratch. It fits into your SDLC process. So this is not businesses gone wild. Another myth that we always debunk is the architects will say, this is going to enable businesses to build all their own applications. The answer is yes, but it's still part of your SDLC process. The user is building those applications in a process which is from the plan, build, test, release, manage side from every aspect. And we built this from scratch to comply with your SDLC needs within Fortune 50 enterprises that are highly regulated banking entities and every aspect of it. So you're going to see me come into a browser. So Unqork is just browser-based application, and I'm going to log in as my user. So as a user, I actually have my own role-based access control of what I can create, what I can do, what I'm able to do. From a user point of view, I also have a separate role-based access control, which enables me as a consumer of Unqork to be able to say, what could I change, the fields, the attributes, what do I see, what do I override, what don't I know exists? So as a customer, I enter my social. When it goes to the call center, social is not even on the field on the screen or brought back from the database. I'm going to start with creating a brand new application from scratch, and we'll call this architecture demo. A workspace is an amazing concept. It's basically the idea that within your single tenant instance, and getting back to what single tenant means to you, single tenant means top to bottom stack, no one is in your environment but you. We believe that's the future. We believe cloud made it, incredibly easy for us to do this and keep across cloud providers Unqork updated across every customer with one click. Doesn't matter what environment they're in. So from that perspective, we're able to actually drive this and say, what does it mean to us? It means that we're able to give you your own encryption key that stores your data in transit, in storage, and at rest that we as Unqork can't even see. It's why you'll see banking customers talking about Unqork publicly. It's why we're able to do hospital systems and government systems. But that key itself is something which you keep and we can't see. It also enables you to create workspaces within that instance. And when I'm working within here, I'm working within staging. As a consumer and user, I also have a separate pre-prod, UAT, and production. And the promotion process goes through your SDLC process as architects. So you build that promotion process. But a business user or an engineer could be doing what I'm about to do, jump into a workspace and start creating applications on the fly. So from an application, I might create, this is architecture app. And I could choose, so the first thing we do with the customers, we actually enable styles to be yours. We don't exist in the world. So from every aspect of the styles, it becomes the customer's demo. We don't exist. You don't know it's us. So we've been in production since 2017 in about 20 countries or so. And every one of those apps, you'll never know you're in us, outside of us, in the app or not. And I could basically define what is the application we're going to build, and am I creating it from scratch or not. So from this point of view, I'm able to actually start building an application, a workflow, data, modules, all in this workspace, which could be released in one shot. And the workspace, which has its own role-based access control. Now it's going to look like I'm going to be building a BPM process. I'm going to do it as fast as I can. You'll see we have this concept of versioning built in. So when we version and make a change to an application, it versions all data in flight. So you have full data lineage to show the regulator, hey, when the customer arrived, here's actually what they filled out. Here were the rules 3 years ago, and here's why it actually looks like it did and how it changed. You could see I'm actually in a view mode. I haven't been permissioned yet, but I'm going to change that to editing, which means I'm locking this. I'm actually now able to lock this. And so from this point of view, I'm going to basically build an application. And I'm going to define the user. In this case, is going to be the customer. And the customer, I could have as many swim lanes as I want. I have an automated swim lane. And the first thing the customer is going to do is maybe we're going to go ahead and just create a brand new screen. It's who are you? And after they actually tell us who they are, they're going to give us maybe some information about their let's say home life. So activities, let's say interest. And I could actually stop there and I could say, that's great. After they do that, let's send a text out or a message. So built in is all communication in and out of Unqork. So I could say, let's text. And I'm going to send it to myself, so we'll get it. And I'll end it. And these processes have decisioning and gate weights and everything else that you'd expect to see built in. When I click save, this is production ready. You would start to store your most critical data here, your most secure data. It's a production ready system that I can start to define almost a data model, but it's not what I'm collecting. So I've got an entire toolbox here of everything from primary fields to secondary fields, to display fields, to layouts, to rules, to charting, to graphing. And then I've got a concept of templates. So I could just simply say, who are you? And let's just ask a nice question. Are you a new user? Yes or no. All the labels are externalized. Every aspect of the values, the labels separated, because we are multi-language, multi-currency out of the box. So there's no concept of an afterthought about that. Are you a new user? Yes or no. Maybe I'm going to go look for a driver's license template. So that's great. Take a picture of your license and I'll pull all the information from there. And I don't really care about your height and weight. So you could see how the validations start to occur. And if I click save, this is a production ready system. What I mean by that is I can immediately see what it looks like to a consumer in whatever look and feel is there. I could see there's 2 steps. I could see the design and maybe change the way it looks. And let's just change it once more. I think we like that. That looks good. I could change the actual layout with just one click to be vertical versus horizontal. And just refresh. And who are we? 2 steps. Are we a new user? Yes. Let's actually upload a picture of a driver's license and it'll pull back all the information and we're done. That's a real-time API. And I'm just going to come back here for a second. I'm going to show you how maybe we do a little bit more advanced things. So let's edit the second screen. And it's a screen, right? It looks like a screen. So maybe we'll actually do a quick formula. So maybe we ask you if who you are, it's what's your salary? And you could see how it's multi-currency, which currency will do US dollar. It's required. Let's put a description. Let's actually change the minimum and maximum. Let's add a tooltip. You could see I'm typing because I can't spell, so I'm doing my best. And even an example there, a placeholder. And we'll save it. And we've got a first field. I could even change the layout a little bit. And we could put that over here. Now, so when I click save, immediately without deploying anything, I'm still on the same screen. If I click next, it's deployed. And it's fully functioning. So can't be more than that, has to be less than that. And it won't let me move forward if I'm in violation. So it can let me move back, I can make a change, but you'll see actually I won't be able to actually move forward. It will work on any device and it will stop me right here until I actually finish it. So with that, maybe we'll do a very quick calculation. Maybe we'll put something like a number field, adjusted salary. This field is going to be currency. I'm just going to take 2 seconds and we're going to disable this field. You can't enter it. Maybe I'm going to drop in a credit check template. So give me your social security number and I'll do a credit check. We'll do a real-time lookup in a credit agency as you type it. And I'm going to go ahead and set a factor which no one sees. And the factor itself would be set using a decision table, a rule. And I'm going to basically just look at credit score. I know we're almost done with this demo, and then I'll just take a question or two. I already see a question about scalability, which is an easy one to answer. So I could basically set the factor. I'm going to say 0 to 650 credit score. You're a 8.0. If you're over 650, you're a 0.90. And before you ever leave, you test everything. And you see if it hits. And you could store the results and basically regression test this automatically every time we do for you. If I save this, few cool things. One, let's just come back and actually let's see what happens. So you'll see it's deployed. Data model got kept. I enter in a credit score. It's fake data, just so you know, no disclaimer. And I set behind the scenes a factor, and I enter in salary. Now, if I come back here, I could actually add in another rule. And I'm going to add in a calculation. And I'm going to basically say, take in the factor that was set, take in the salary, A and B, and set the adjusted salary equal to A times B. And we test it. Too many decimals, we round it. Looks good, we store the result. And we click save. Now, before I go show you what happened, I could actually show you one of the cool things. I could actually show you we've been versioning every change made by whomever made it with a description of what happened. So I could actually compare two different versions and see what was added. I could actually compare just the last two versions and see that that factor was added and the rule was added. Now, what it did to the actual consumer of the application is really cool. So I still haven't restarted yet, but the consumer itself, if I click next, this is deployed, all the data was saved. The adjusted salary has now been set. The rules are working. And you'll see how it's there. In addition, the validation set, in addition, this automatically created the equivalent of an API to replace the need for any API tool out there, any framework, anything from one of the largest companies. So what I mean by that is I could actually say remote execute this, server side. And now I'm moving the entire application out of my device here onto the server side. And I'm just going to do two things, pass in social and pass in salary, execute it. So you'll see it actually took the credit score out of the credit agency based on the social. It didn't pass the social back to me because we marked it as not persistent. So let's actually just do one way, which is what you need to do. And it actually created an adjusted salary using the factor that was set. Done. This, back to your response question that was asked before, we were able to demonstrate for one bank loading in 25 million customers, each with 3 to 5 products in their set. And in that environment, we were able to demonstrate 1 million transactions per minute per instance on the server side with 70% load with unlimited instances across that could be scaled up. Basically, we are highly scalable. We're able to demonstrate to the client side under 200 millisecond response time per screen. We are running in 3G environments where we're in countries like Malaysia and Philippines where data sovereignty and data laws prevent us from storing even the PII data. You'll see we're able to do things as well. If I come here and go to maybe administration, application administration, I'm able to come here and actually even look at this app that we built and look at the data model tracing from all aspects of it. So I think there's a question that just came from data isolation, single tenant. I'm able to see the data model that we created, like factor, and see where is it referenced, copy the path, see the details, see the social security number. I'm able to see based on tools we built in whether or not this may be potentially PII or sensitive data and maybe make it persistent or not. We have other aspects to build in topology to be able to look at your application and where is it referenced and the usability of it and where is this, if you're making a change, where is the downstream impact of that change. So that's aspects of that as well. The APIs are either, you're able to secure the APIs, and I could show you that as well. It's a great question. Administration, you'll see under administration, it's everything you need to run an enterprise. Everything from data to the modules, to the actual, if we come back, we could choose a module, but you'll see from the, we come back to services, you'll see we have every type of authentication possible to do server-side or client-side of API integration, bidirectional. So OAuth client grant, great. OAuth bearer grant, great. We have one of the craziest was custom SOAP header we did for one customer where we had to basically digitally sign it in 3 different places for an Oracle 2003 standard, which no one supports anymore. And when we did it the one time, it means you get to use it out of the box. It's provided to you. So let's see, how do you create a new template with your own rules? Every single form that you create, so if we come back to this form that we created with that business rules, I could actually save this as my own template and just say save as template and give it a name. This is my rules for salary. I could describe it. I could tag it. And I'm going to say it's an intermediate level. I'm going to save this. And at this point, if I was starting a brand new application from scratch, I could actually start here. I could go to templates and I could find that I actually have a brand new template created, drag it in, and it's got everything you need from the rules to the functionality. And if I then add in my own component, let's say name, and let's just name this. And at this point, if I just preview it, the name must be unique. Let's just give it a different name, save it. So all validation's occurring. And if I preview this now, this is a fully functioning application, inheriting that application with all the functionality needed to run from that point of view. So that's templates. So let's see, high volume. I'm just going to read through a few more. So each module is stored in its own collection. Nope. It's actually stored within an environment that you get access to. I'm going to show you the Unqork developer tools. So you're able to actually, through APIs, retrieve all of your activity. So the entire Unqork environment is available through APIs, where you could get specific submissions, you could parse submissions, you could actually do scans on millions of records across submissions, and do that all with using APIs. From a training perspective, academy.uncork.com provides you everything you need to learn how to use that, from the introductory through the advanced. And I could actually say I want to look at intermediate or advanced. You'll start to see in LinkedIn as a lot of our customers are training themselves and actually going through this and completing coursework. You'll see everything around how to actually walk through this and maybe a data workflow. I didn't show data workflow, but just to kind of show what a data workflow is, it is the ability to do 4-way trade reconciliation. I want to basically take in 2 inputs. I want to basically pipe that into an aggregate. I want to do a filter here. And without code, I'm going to take this into here, and I'm going to basically do a filter based on this argument. We've been able to demonstrate natural language processing built into this from every aspect of the complexity of aggregating data, unwinding data, merging data, all the way through arrays and joins and sets, everything to values, creating a new value, and simple natural language processing built in from that perspective. So while each module is stored with every single module within your instance is stored within the same Mongo database, you actually have real-time access to it. It's not a black box. You actually see the data, you see the rules, you understand it. It's all built in from that perspective. So I'm going to stop there. Is there any other questions? Let's just see, under Q&A. Sorry, I didn't see that. Can you add a validation rule that runs on the server as it needs to access previously stored data from different application areas? Absolutely. You're able to bring in data. There's a component called a plugin component that lets you actually say, I want to watch these fields. Maybe I want to watch the credit score field. And every time it changes, I want to go to an Unqork service to get submission from another application. And you're done. So we've solved integration. The biggest issue of enterprises is integration. We've solved it. It's nothing but a data mapping exercise. What do we call it here? What should it be called here? What does it return? It returns score, but they call it score, spelled right. As simple as that. So from a data mapping tool perspective, I think I showed one aspect of data, but if I show you a different aspect of data as well, just move this over. You could see that you could actually build in Unqork itself in your workspace. You could build in your own reference data structures. So this is my customers 432. This is Marge, Bart, Maggie. And we could basically save this data collection. If I come to a module that we were working on, just pick one. And if I just drop in a component here, like Dropdown, and I'm going to do a lookup real time. So I could actually find this, and I could say I'm going to look within my customers 432. I could now actually bind a field to a database name, and that's it. And I'm pretty sure if I spelled that right or not. I guess we could test this and unit test this before we move on. So if that worked, these customer dropdown is fully functioning at this point, which it did work, with all the data accessible from that point of view. Who's the main users of the platform? So that's a great question. We actually say the person who is a creator that I just did could be the business, could be a business analyst, could be an engineer. Some of the best creators are engineers. That's great. Some of the best creators are also business analysts. There's a critical role we call solution architecture, which is critical in every one of your companies to have. And it's the role that basically says, because there's no more coding, coding's gone, eliminated. There's no more need to ever write code again. You still need to design things properly. You still need to have the idea of reusability. We have inheritance built in. We have unlimited levels of inheritance and chaining, which you could say, I've got my customer record, I've got my institutional customer, my retail customer. And every aspect of it is all built in from that perspective. So you still need a solution architect who's the role. The benefit is we're about 200 times faster than any traditional development you've ever seen. How many third-party integrations possible? We probably have hundreds or thousands at this point. We have an entire API marketplace. Most importantly, you could create your own in your instance within a matter of 2 seconds by defining it as a service. And you're good to go from that perspective. So finally, let's just see, how do you differentiate yourself various no-code sprouting in the market? So very simply, a lot of those tools, actually all they do is low code. So they help you generate code faster. That's it. I've seen it. I've used it. I've been a consumer of it thinking it was going to solve all my problems, and it never did. The idea of generating code faster still means you're maintaining legacy. The second it's generated, it's legacy. A lot of those tools are really good at a niche part of that architecture diagram, if I go back to it. They're really good at workflow. They're really good at maybe the UX. They're good at integration. I could tell you 2 or 3 API frameworks that you're probably using today. We actually replace it all. So there's no need to have multiple tools and components bound together through code that is hard to maintain. Environments with microservices that is even harder to maintain than it was 20 years ago, and more costly. I mean, I left the corporate world to fix it because all I kept seeing was the costs were increasing and value was decreasing. Fundamentally, a challenge was I became, as a CIO, I became a lawyer telling the business why we did something that they didn't want, why we couldn't roll back a package that was being deployed. I've seen banks and even former companies I worked in that have done no progress over 5 to 10 years aspect of it. So the idea of these systems out there are generating code faster. We don't generate code. We don't actually believe you should be writing code unless it's a competitive advantage for you. We are taking engineers and making them artists again, which is what I think an engineer should be. From a support monitoring point of view, everything's built in. We actually are proxying services. We'll know your API went down before you do. And we have a level 1 support that's 24/7 monitoring all the applications in the environment. From an A/B testing point of view, that's a pretty simple one as well. You could actually copy or create 2 different instances of your application inheriting the same templates and make a very simple A/B test going through it. We are tracking, it's really cool. So we are tracking every single change in the field. So if I say yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, behind the scenes, there's 5 records have been created for that field, which we track every aspect. When I click on Marge, we know I'm entering this field. we know I selected something, and we know I'm staying there for the next 20 seconds. So we actually give you access to every bit of metadata built into Unqork, not using any other services or tools, because the reality is your data should never leave our environment. That's the criticality of knowing your license number. Your personal information needs to stay on there. Branding on UX. So as I said, we don't exist in the world, which means maybe there's some demos that look like, I'm just going to bring up a few. Sorry, we had that. Here's a demo, which is basically a small business loan application. We stood up in 2 days for one bank. And, it's a different look and feel. It could be even paper in this case, the way it looks and feels. Here's an entire ability to bring in Plaid. So let's bring in Plaid. Let's actually look for First Platypus Bank. Let's look up my bank account information. Let me log in through Plaid. And it's going to bring into Uncork then from Plaid all the different data and show me my account. Again, different look and feel. My account's linked. I'm going to use my checking account, continue next. And I've got my personal information, my bank account. This is all fake, by the way, so no worries there. And basically, you could even think about things like maybe building dashboards and drill downs. This is all components in Uncork. And being able to do grids and tables on massive amounts of data. Pop-ups is all built in. Status requests, where am I in the status? This is probably one of the more complex applications. It's what every bank has yet to solve, which is onboarding. And the idea of real-time searches across the industry to bring in data, maybe on, I'm going to make this up, Ford Motor Corp, and bring in their glyph data, legal entity data, start a brand new request for a bank in order to do onboarding of a brand new legal entity through credit, legal, compliance, KYC, every aspect of all the things that need to occur, and be able to do this in a way which highlights maybe just the fields that are missing, because it pulled data from 35 different systems to fill out this one screen already to make my life easier. So it abstracts all the complexity behind the scenes in those systems from that perspective. It's able to do decisioning and rules and products. I'm able to actually, let me just edit this. I'll show you a little bit more, which is pretty cool. Pop-ups, validations. Let me just do different data structures and booking entities in London. And I'm going to submit it. And I could even do things like submitting to workflow. So this just kicked off to someone else's queue. It popped in their queue. There's a little alert that pops up. And when that alert pops up, it's going to basically tell me I've got something waiting for my queue. It just came in just now. That worked great. I could view it. And because of role-based access control as a user, I'm actually now able to see a complete different set of data for Ford. I'm able to upload files. We are WORM compliant. So everything you need to be to show a regulator that it's write once, read many is built in. You don't need an external document storage. You don't need a file system. You don't need any access to that. And if I basically just come through this process real quick, I could actually kick this over now to the customer themselves, to Ford, and say, hey, Ford, we need you to fill out some missing pieces of information for us. And so I'm going to send an email, and it's going to come to, send it to me, and we'll send it. And we're done. So this is now a compliance email, was sent, tracked, recorded. And if I go to my inbox, this will now be waiting there. Can we use this within any vertical? So we are currently live in production in everything from insurance, banks, capital markets, asset managers across every country. We are also live in our first hospital as the patient registration system. We are live in New York City and Washington, D.C. as their COVID response, tracking COVID cases, doing food delivery, delivering supplies, donations, medical. We are live within, basically, if you think about a vertical, there's no reason why it can't be used. Real estate technology, we've been tracking consumer housing since last November. We replaced an HR system to do performance management and reviews within just about a month or two for one state in the US. So a use case to us, we haven't come across a use case we can't do yet. When I say we, it's we celebrate success with clients, and that's you. So it's very simple. We teach you how to use the tool. We guarantee you're in production, and we do the work to get you to production for your first case. And then basically you take it over from us and you don't need us anymore. The goal is this is your single technology that you will ever need in your company. And as a CIO of a Fortune 50 company, influencing $9 billion to spend, owning $1.2 billion to spend a year, I could guarantee what I say is true. Like there's no question there that that's actually able to replace the technology there. Our goal is the engineers and the talented technologists in the group should focus on what's unique about their company, while we basically do 95% of the rest they're doing today. Pricing is a good one. Pricing is based on a simple fact, which is there's a use case and you pay us for a subscription, and that subscription is an annual subscription, which includes the hosting, the support, the security, all aspects of future upgrades, no matter what we move you to in the future environment, and full access to that data real time. And the use case pricing is something which you'd be working with us on as we go through this. We are not looking for simple use cases. So we've turned down Fortune 50 companies who basically the architecture team tried to corner us into amazing tool, amazing process. It's great for the simple use case over here. We are building derivative systems, trading systems, FX hedging systems, and we're doing it at a scale that no one else can. So that's really what we're looking for. Any other questions? I think we've gone through. I have two things up here. So if you are interested to see more, if you use our Unqork, contact us in our website. We could actually present in a demo. We don't respond to RFPs or RFIs at all. So if you're an architect and you want to bring us in, what we basically say is get us down to your final two and invite us to do a bake-off against them. And we don't lose. No matter who the vendor is, whether it's internal development teams or external vendors, we don't lose. We will make the investment to show you it solves your need without any issue on our side at all. We don't ask for anything. Give us the most complex use case and basically drive it from there. Anything else? Communications like APIs, messaging, absolutely. So we built in integrations to things from SendGrid to Twilio to any aspect of communication. We have built in our integrations to products like DocuSign, and we also built in, if you don't have DocuSign, our own signature component, which enables us to actually capture a digital signature as simple as dragging it in. And I've got a brand new, beautiful component here working as well. Done. So from that perspective, we're able to actually drive. So yes, we have built in, we are able to, the purpose of this swim lane down here called automated is we're able to actually stop the process and say, at this point, I want to basically have a signal coming. And that signal might be coming from that signal might come from waiting for a chatbot to respond. So we built a chatbot using nothing but the workflow tool in Unqork to communicate with the customer, wait, come back and respond. And go forward. Mobile offline, interesting. So currently the answer is not today, but there is a government that wants us to build this and use this within a very large use case, which we are committing to have later this year. And so that is coming as well on our roadmap, which we could walk you through in any additional meetings you'd like to see. SQL equivalent, you actually saw me do query before when I bound. Just going to quickly show you what that means. If you remember this customer lookup here, if I just bring up the developer tools, show you network, like this is actually bringing back an API. So you could see the actual API came back. The language we built in this API is the equivalent of SQL from that perspective. So give me the first 100, skip 0. What came back was this. Let's actually see the preview. Here's the records that came back. You could actually take this API and call it and say, I want to pass everyone that has the name Marge or everyone that's in The Simpsons, and it will come back and do a query as well. So very advanced SQL querying from greater than, less than, equal, min, max on the data structures, and those data structures could sync with your internal data stores, including vSAN files, DB2, COBOL, mainframe, or anything else out there from that perspective. So with that, I think I've got all of these. Is there any other? There's a few more coming in Q&A. I'm just going to read through. I think I've answered all these. So so look, I'm hoping that was fun. It's fun for me to always do these demos, and thank you again for joining us today. And take care, everyone. Thank you.